All right, without further ado, we are going to get started. We're going to do mics on both sides of the room. I get this side of the room because you guys are fabulous and look wonderful. Not that the other side doesn't. Who wants to go first? First question. Who wants? Do we not have questions? I mean, I can ask. I was just down here.
So mine's to all of you guys. What advice would you guys give yourself past you at your lowest point?
What advice would you give past you at your lowest point? Oh, wait, hold on. They don't have them. Somebody was passing out microphones and then started taking pictures of people. Hello.
Let me get mine in there real quick. You're going to come out all right. I wish I had known that. Maybe I could have healed sooner or been on a path to healing sooner. But yeah, you're going to be all right.
I shared with one group how at one point I was practicing, meaning taking the practice. I was practicing and I had someone die from January to March every 2 weeks in my family. And I only took 5 days off of work. That was to get my hair done for the funerals. And what I would tell myself is to rest and process. I am yet to process what happened at that time because I had to move on with my life. I had to keep going. So you have to take time to, because I don't know how I didn't have a nervous breakdown. I was close, but I didn't, thank God. But you have to take time to rest and you have to process. Because if you don't process, it's going to manifest in a different way on a different day. But you have to be able to recognize what's manifesting. You can only do that if you take time to process. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
Hi, I'm a former high school teacher. About like hard days in teaching, like I have been the person on the bathroom floor crying like during lunch period because I just like had a terrible morning and you didn't know how you're going to get through the rest of the day. Like I have been there when my colleagues like have found themselves on the floor of the bathroom crying. I just want to say, like, if you have those days or when you have those days, like it's not you, right? You are not a bad teacher. You are not a bad person, right? Like, you are not wrong for feeling emotional. And that, like, I'm going to steal a little bit from Dr. E. What she told us last night is that you are needed, right? You are needed in the work, which doesn't mean that you have to show up and be a superhero, right? We're not asking that. But, you know, when you are on the floor and you are feeling the low, right? Just remember, like, I showed up today, right? And maybe I'm going to show up tomorrow. And some days, I'm going to take that day off. I'm going to take that rest so that the next day I can show up again, right? So, like, know that this is hard work. It's incredibly emotional work, right? You are not the first person to have that hard day, and you will not be the last one. So just don't blame yourself and say, like, I am needed and I am here. And for today, that's enough.
Questions? That's you.
I was wondering, you take the day off, you take the rest, you show up when you can, and do your best. Of course, that rhymed. But what if your leadership is not on the same page as you when it comes to your rest and your personal growth? And I'm just asking. That's all. I'm just saying.
I'll say quickly that, you know, in the same way, and maybe this shouldn't be the case, but in the same way that we need to learn how to communicate with the people in our classroom, you kind of have to learn your admin, right? So Some admin will only listen to you if you communicate to them in a specific way. And you kind of have to do the work to learn how to communicate with them. The school I taught at, I loved my admin, but also he would not respond if I came to him with just a problem, right? He was not interested if I came with a problem and felt like it was just complaint. You needed to come to him and say, here's the problem I'm seeing. Here are 3 things that I think we could do to fix it. And then he'll listen to me and he'll take seriously that we have a problem, right? And then I had to learn that sort of communication strategy, right? And I learned, like, there are other people on the team, if I just need to, like, bitch a little bit, like, some people were there for that, right? But not my principal. So I think make an effort, like, unfortunately, you have to learn, like, the communication style of your admins and kind of tailor yourself to them, which, ideally they would be doing that for us, as their teachers, but sometimes that's not the case.
I have been very fortunate to have majority of my admin be understanding, like if I need to call out or leave, especially when it regards to my children. If my children call me, I'm gone, period. And so, some admin are just not good admin. And if you need to take rest, if it's a situation where, like, you're stressed, sometimes, first of all, this is a big school district. You can transfer schools. Somebody's school needs you. And there's 1,500 or 1,500 jobs that's open? 1,081, there you go. One of them can have your name on it. One person in one of my sessions said something about setting boundaries. You have to set boundaries. And so if they cannot necessarily make that accommodation for you, sometimes you have to take it, meaning take the accommodation for yourself, accommodate yourself. Sometimes you can be in a situation where you can have that type of relationship with an admin. It doesn't necessarily have to be the principal, and they'll be understanding. Don't assume that they're not going to be understanding, because sometimes they are very understanding. They're like, just go, we got it. So it's just all about knowing the school you want to go to, check the school out, talk to the admin in the interview, ask these questions when you interview for the school before you accept the job. If I need to make an accommodation for my children, if I need to make an accommodation for myself, am I allowed to do that? And then you can choose what is the best fit for you. But transfer and take the day off.
Y'all already did that.
You keep hold of that microphone, Dr.
Did your greatest challenges come from yourself, other women, or other men?
That was kind of deep, my sister. Probably all of the above for me. Oh, because you mean it in professional settings? Oh, well, definitely I've had a lot of haters in the academy. Because people want you to fit into a box, and I didn't fit in the boxes that they had for me. And I was okay with that because I knew why I was there, for whoever God put in my path for me to help them get their PhD or their master's or their undergraduate degree, whoever needed, the areas that I had, that's who I'm here for. But there were a lot of undercover haters. And it took me a minute to figure out how they operate because they smile and they were never direct, and it took me a few years to figure out that they were stabbing me in the back all kinds of ways, bad mouthing me and stuff like that. But, I figured out how to, counteract and protect myself, and I found tribe. across, the university and other areas. So I think you got to find people that support you, and just find the people who can be your support system, and speak up. That's what I learned, how to speak up for myself, and choose my battles and figure out how I was going to strategically win in the end. So in that setting, I think there were definitely some people hating on me, and they were all women. They were all white women too, that I knew of. Now, let me take that lie back. There was one that wasn't. Let me take that back. I just thought about somebody that was a hater and that was in cahoots with the other haters. And what was the other part? Was it women? You said, was it women, men? And it wasn't me.
Passing the mic off. I don't want to follow that up. I think a professional challenge I had, like everyone in this room, either you're teaching now or you want to teach, right? And you mean well, right? Like you're well-intentioned. Most people get into teaching because they want to inspire children, they want to serve children, right? Many of us get into teaching because we see the terrible, terrible disparities, right, coming out of our education system, and we want to work to fix that, right? And so you go in and your heart is full, right? But I think my first year teaching, I didn't realize that these children don't know me, right? I don't know them yet, they don't know me, right? And when I walk in the door the first day, there's no reason for that child to respect me, right? They do not know me. I have not worked to form a relationship with them yet, right? So if I walk in and I think, well, my heart is good, right? Obviously, I'm just gonna, bond with kids right away. That's not gonna happen, right? So I think, it was just not to say you're not gonna bond with kids, right? But I think doing that self-work and owning that, why you're in education, but you have to build relationships with your kids so they know why you are not just in education, why are you in their classroom, right? Or why are you in their neighborhood teaching? So, and I say this, you all took the PD with self-advocacy. It said we had the thing that said, do you teach the content or do you teach the student? When I went into teaching, because I was teaching at OSU, I was teaching freshman writing, and then I went into education. I was I love the content. I love teaching writing. I love teaching English. I can do that all day. But I had to learn that I have to teach the student, right? So I think that was a challenge for me, was learning that, I know what's in my heart, right? But my kids don't until I form a relationship with them. Right? So they're not going to learn the content no matter what kind of teacher I am or how much content I know if I'm not teaching them and if I don't learn them first.
So what I think I can add for me, being a Black girl is a challenge in itself. My whole life has been a challenge. We spend our whole lives trying to fit in systems that were made to be against us. And so as it relates to education, the challenge that I have within myself is, am I gonna wear myself out trying to fight this fight? And that is the conflict that most of us have in academia and in teaching. How do I make myself fit? How do I show up as myself? And who's gonna take it? And so I have resolved within myself that I'm gonna show up as myself. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. And you have to be okay with everyone not accepting what you bring. You also have to be okay with the fact that you're not for everybody, but there's always somebody that's for you. As far as other people, most of my challenges have been from other Black women. Because other Black people, I can also say, because when they see me, they automatically see me as ghetto. and they have come to the resolve that I don't belong in some of the spaces that I'm in. And as hurtful as it is, I understand my purpose and what I'm doing. And so you have to kind of be in a space where you can have your blinders on and you can't look to and fro. You have to be focused on what it is that you want to do. And however I get there is how I get there. But it hurts real bad when it's your own people. Because all folks ain't kin folks, and all skin folks ain't kin folks. And so people will smile in your face, people will steal your ideas. Be careful about sharing your stuff, because it'll show up in the PD. And they done swiped your little break room conversation and turned it into something and slapped their name on it. So you have to be strategic about how you move and about who you share, because hating ain't always somebody saying bad about you. Hating can be stealing your ideas. And so you can guard things without being closed. And so just be careful, because people will take your stuff and go slap their name on it and be presented in the PD, and you'll be sitting right there. I had somebody steal a crisis plan of mine in the district, and I was in a training, and I recognized my work. And I was like, this is mine. And so, like, guard what you have. Keep copies of everything that you make, if you make your own materials. And stop talking so much. You can talk, but don't give them everything. Sometimes you got to keep stuff for yourself.
So I have a note for those of you who are live streaming. Some of you are having trouble submitting questions. If that's the case, by all means, submit to, if you've got a friend or something, you can reach out to in Slack, and we'll still get the question asked, and we'll work on that end as well. So we do have an online question, and I'm going to read it as is, and then I'm going to adjust it for the group that we have. The question is, how do you talk with kids, parents, that look at you and tell you, you don't understand my kid because you're not Black? I'm gonna fill in that blank with anything, because in general, how do you don't understand my kid because you're not part of whatever group. So how do you handle that when a parent tells you that you just don't understand their kid because you're not? So
well, the Black girl came straight out. Excuse me. I'm at home. Okay, so I hate when people say stuff like that. That's a two-way street. Sometimes people don't understand because they're not. That's true. But don't let anybody use that against you as a weapon. In one of the sessions, we talked about deconstructing. Acknowledge the fact I am white, I am brown, I am Hispanic, I am whatever I am. I am a part of this system, and I am working on deconstructing some of these ideals that are not ideal, right? Race, you don't understand because I'm Black. I am trying to learn. And then you also put it back on the parent. So if I don't understand, can you show me how to understand? Can you tell me what I don't understand so that I can make the situation better? Usually if you ask them, well, what do you want? They usually get tripped up because they just want to argue. How is it that how can I understand your child? No, I'm not Black, but I'm working on trying to understand your child. So how can you help me, or can you help me understand? What is it that I need to know? Sometimes we have to take the position as the learner, even though we are the teachers. We don't know everything. We are not cultural experts. One thing I can say about this district is that they tell you can do a lot of multicultural stuff, but they don't tell you how to do it. Come on, somebody say amen. If you did your trainings, you already know. They don't tell you how. We don't know how to do this. You only do that by taking classes, by learning, by talking to other people who don't look like you, going into other environments. But to the question, ask, acknowledge, right? I know I am not this. I ain't Black, but I still have your kid. So help me to understand. And don't be defensive. Don't take it personal. Do the work, the self-work.
Yeah, there's very little to add to that. But I'll also say that, I mean, I've never had that kind of relationship with a parent, but if you have tested relationships with parents like that, also keep in mind, like, what are the contexts in which I have communicated with this family before, right? If the only time you've ever talked to that family is because their kid got sent out of class, right? You know, you might think, well, you know, I maybe should have a relationship with this family so that I can, like, help with that wraparound support to help their student in class, right? So, I mean, even teaching high school, right? I have had 17-year-old boys who acted real tough, but loved it when they had a great day in class, and I gave mom a call, and I was like, look, like, he did great in class today. He tried really hard, right? I mean, like, laugh, but also, like, that's a real thing, right? You know, and I even think that at the beginning of the year when you're meeting parents, I mean, I would ask, like, how do you want to hear from me? Is it okay if, like, you get texts, get a Google Voice number? Nobody needs your phone, right? But, like, you can have a Google Voice for free, right? You can send quick texts to parents, right, when people have good days, right? Ask if it's okay if you send messages through whatever system. But, you know, if you have, like, a troubled relationship with a particular family, do stop and think, like, when have I been in contact with them, right? Because if all that family hears from you, or if all they've heard from school for a number of years, right, is how bad their kid is, right, or they can't do X or they can't do Y, you know, they're maybe not in a position where they really want the relationship with the school, because the school hasn't, you know, school as they've seen it hasn't treated their kid well or treated them well. So think, like, make sure you have positive phone calls and, like, contact with parents, right? Because, like, it doesn't matter how old their kid is. They want to hear, like, when they are doing good, right? And it really doesn't take a lot of time, so.
Are there more questions? Or do I get to go into my bag of questions? Anybody else? Questions? Questions? Okay, I'm going to throw one out there, and then if you guys, oh, do you have one?
What is a PD? It's a professional development.
It is a professional development. Oh, do you have a question? He had, I got it. I got.
So I have a student who has verbally expressed a dislike of the fact that he is black. And I'd like to have an effect in some way. Yeah, that's my question.
I'm not a psychologist. I have questions. How old is this student?
He's 9.
Okay. Is he raised by black people?
What, one more time?
Is he raised by black people?
Yes.
Okay. So, one thing I would do is, okay, this is a part of multicultural education and making sure that students feel seen. Most times when we're teaching, we mostly use white examples. Okay? We don't show brown people, we don't show black people in whatever the content area is. So one way to kind of get it in there is to start showing positive examples. Because we don't know what's being said in the home. We don't know if somebody's telling him he's ugly. We don't know if somebody is telling him that black culture is bad, because black culture is being told to us that it's bad. It's being told that it's bad. Okay, anybody seen Candace Owens lately? Our culture is a culture of death. First of all, is it even your culture? Number one. Number two, who said that? Right? There are things that are constantly being played and re-rehearsed over and over and over and over and over. So one thing that we can do as educators, everyone can do, is try to make sure that students see people, see figures, see examples that look like them. Okay? If you're an English teacher, if you teach high school, make sure, or even middle school, make sure that you are not, this is something that I got from Morgan, that you're not always sharing literature that is exploiting Black trauma. Okay? Every book you read about Black people can't be about prison and slavery. Okay? Every book you share about brown people or Latinx people should not always be about immigration. Okay? It could be about success stories. It could be about scientists. It could be about artists. It could be about social justice. So we as educators need to, and this is hard because they tell you what to do, but they don't tell you how to do it, is start to incorporate those things into your teaching. Okay? The first time I saw a Black person on the front of a history book, I was at a HBCU. Never saw it before, ever. First time, okay? Now, we don't even really use textbooks anymore at all. But you have the power to start putting in pictures and purposefully choosing figures that are of color. We ain't gonna leave everybody out. Put everybody up there. Whatever population your class look like, make it equal. And start showing that to the kids. Start showing them positive figures. And make sure you be careful about what you say. Don't be saying bad things about other cultures. You say positive things, okay? That will help a lot. Just a picture, not just one picture, but in the teaching, within the content. You talking about science, pull up not just Ben Carson, okay? Pull up pull up another scientist, an unknown person that we haven't heard about. We tired of Martin Luther King. I love Martin Luther King, but I'm tired. It's other people, okay? Use those other figures, pull up those other people of colors, and show that to your kids.
I'm gonna just, while I walk down here, I'm gonna add on, and Quinn, I think, put it in her presentation, it's not just the negative things we do. Some of our compliments are not exactly compliments. I can't tell you the number of times someone's told me how articulate I was and how well spoken I was. Oh, see now, you got the Holy Ghost over here.
That was falling out like the church. That was a fake. That was how they got the Holy Ghost. It was fake.
Hey, so just a couple things. One thing, we talked about self-efficacy earlier today, right? And I kind of have a problem with that in my classroom because sometimes my students are not self-motivated. They really need that extra push, but sometimes with 40-something kids in the classroom, it's kind of hard to focus one-on-one, try to motivate them. So just out of curiosity, and my question I have written here too is, just how do you build self-efficacy in your classroom, just to pick some ideas off your brain, For everybody.
Yeah, sure. One of the things that Quinndolyn was just mentioning, like, have models, right, of people who look like our students, right? Like, that's what in the self-efficacy literature they call vicarious experience, right? So that's a model of success. If you have on your wall student work, right? So you have some exit ticket or some project, right? And you say I'm gonna put up for this week my 10 high scores, right? And I'm gonna see you on there next week, right? So celebrating data. I mean, also things basic things scaffolding lessons. If you know something's gonna be really hard, purposefully making planning moves in your classwork and in your preparation of how am I gonna get, one step to the next to get to this really high task, right? If you are scaffolding and you as a teacher are modeling, that is something that can help raise students' belief that they can do it. But you're right that when students are low motivation, a lot of times what that really reflects is a student belief that they can't, right? So when we think about why do we need to take our students' beliefs seriously, right? It's because how they feel about themselves and their potential of learning, right? Predicts their results, right? If they feel they can't do it, they can't do it. They're not going to, right? But it also shows up behaviorally in your class of their motivation, right? How engaged they are, how much they want to try. So just throw all the tools in your bag at it, and then if it doesn't work that day, which honestly it's not sometimes, show up tomorrow and try something new and ask your colleagues, right? The other teachers in your building and the teachers in your program are like the most valuable resource, right? Because you can have 100 strategies and then one year you have a student who it's just like none of it's working, right? But the person next door might have a strategy that will work for that student. So just keep asking. But also it's hard, so I do feel that.
Hello? Oh, sorry. Just to add on to what Madeline was saying, ask the student what you can do to help them. Sorry, I'm over here. I'm this person talking. Sometimes you have a student who's just so closed off because that's how they've learned to be. They've learned that helpless behavior, and you just need to reach out to them and have a one-on-one conversation because they've now learned to believe that they're invisible. So just reaching out directly to them when you have a minute, just pull them aside, have a conversation, and ask them what you can do as a teacher to help them, the individual self, not the student self.
Hi. So in the beginning of the school year, we usually do activities to get to know more of the culture of the student and their backgrounds. And it came to my mind, usually, if I have a mixture of everything, but one of my Caucasian students randomly always say, well, I don't have culture. I'm from here, the US. Like, how do you address that?
Here we go. They have culture. Everybody does. But I used to tell my kids, look at your shoes. What kind of shoes do you have on? Your shoes represent a culture. The way you dress represents a culture. You live in America, that represents something. See, what we don't realize is that in this country, somebody will get mad, that's okay. I got time. I'm going home after this. A lot of people have to give up their culture to assimilate to whiteness. The melting pot, if I'm quoting one of my favorite scholars, Bonilla Silva, the melting pot, people of color could have been the fire and the logs for the melting pot, but we weren't a part of the pot. Okay? Pot was never meant for us. So that's something that I believe that as a country we are starting to wrestle with. So that may be a little bit of a stem of where that I don't have a culture comes from. Because a lot of the focus has been on people of color recognizing their culture. But the part that we don't teach, and this is a little pinch of CRT, because CRT ain't just for black people, just so you know. CRT hits multiple areas. People who look white had culture. There's Irish culture, there's Armenian culture, there's German culture, there's Scandinavian culture. There's a lot of different cultures in Europe, but a lot of that was given up, okay? So now we all live in one country. We live in America. We choose to present ourselves in whatever way we decide to present ourselves. That's okay. But you still have something that you bring. There's a food that you eat, there's something there's music that you listen to, there's art that you like. Anime is its own culture. Anime is a thing. When I was in school, it was just Pokemon. Look, everybody's like, anime in the back. Yes, anime is a culture, okay? You have something that you connect with. That is culture. One culture that we all have in common is music. There is somebody that you like. That within itself is a culture. So we're not going to do the pity party. Okay, we're not doing my friend Shauna Brown here, I'm wearing her shirt. It's called the pedagogy of pity. We ain't doing that. There is something, it's called funds of knowledge. that every student brings, whether it's from within the home, whether it's from their culture, whether it's music, whether it's food, whether it's dress. You tap into that and you use it as a stepping stone within your teaching to build the class culture. Your classroom is a culture. That is something that you and your students cultivate. Okay? So, okay, what type of shoes do you wear? Do you like music? Do you like anime? That's culture. But don't let him sit there and have no pity party. Do that sound like, because to me it sounds like a pity party. We're not gonna do pity party. There is something that you also bring, okay? So be careful in your cultural awakeness that you don't forget about the other kids too, because the focus is shifting, okay? But make sure there's still something that you bring, but we don't teach the whole thing. Y'all understand what I'm saying? The whole thing ain't taught, okay? So you have to find other ways to get around it, because that could easily turn into something else, and you can end up in trouble. So always have your mind open, and always remember that cultural ain't just skin color. Culture is other things. Did y'all hear me? Culture is not just, okay, and it ain't just food and parties either. But that's your job as a teacher to understand what culture is. You have to do the work, the outside work that you are not being taught in your programs. This is a very diverse, I ain't trying to take too much time, this is a very diverse district. You have to know what you're walking into, or else you're gonna walk into a trap. Do the work.
Questions, 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 questions. Okay, I have one. With all of the conversation about how we do these things and self-efficacy and emphasis on culture and things like that, how do you avoid looking at it from a deficit perspective?
The way you don't have a deficit mindset is you check your own implicit biases. Check your biases first. You have to do the work for yourself, okay? The personal work. This is my Iyanla Van Zant. Call a thing, okay? Call a thing. If you hear something that makes you feel uneasy, sit in it. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way about this? And resolve it, okay? But you have to do the culture, the work. I also told people in my session, don't sit up there and listen to other teachers talk bad about kids. Don't listen to other people talking bad. You don't want to go to that school. All the kids at that school is ghetto. You don't want to go teach at that school. All the kids and the teachers are like this. That's a low performance school. Don't listen to it. You don't want that kid in your class because his IEP says this. He's the bad one. You know how many times I've seen IEPs and I was like, ooh, Lord. I was high. One time I was hiding scissors. I was like, this boy, ooh, I'm hiding all the scissors in the classroom. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And the kid got in the classroom, he didn't even open up his mouth. I'm a sped teacher. Don't believe everything that's written in that IEP. Okay? I'm gonna tell you the truth. Come on, amen. Y'all up in it today. You know, like, don't believe everything you hear. Find out for yourself, okay? And when you're thinking about your kid, if you get a negative thought, check yourself. Is this deficit mindset? And when you hear other people talking bad about kids, talking bad about schools, call them out on their stuff. I'm gonna say it the black way. Call them out on their stuff. Check them. Check them. The only way it's going to change is if you change it. If you sit there and listen to it, you just as bad. You're at fault. Check them.
And some keywords to watch out for is like if you find yourself or others talking about that kid or those kids rather than our kids, right? Like, you're probably working from a place of deficit, right? So if you think about your student body as those kids, right? Or a place of shame, both. You're so right, right? So like, and know for yourself, it's like, if I hear a lot of the talk at my school is going around about those kids, right? Talk to people, right? Call them out, call them in, whatever you have space for that day emotionally, right? But do that. I mean, also, if you know, look, teaching is hard. It takes a lot of time. If you have the time, like, go to events outside of school. A really easy way to help you see your kids is like more than just students, is to see them as more than just students, right? Go to their basketball game, go to their art fair, go to their play, you know, even like, they love to see you as more than a teacher. They love to see you there, and you learn so much about your students, and you get to see like these different aspects of them that you can then use those funds of knowledge, and you can use those skills in your classroom to help with the content, right? So I know it's like everything in teaching, it's like it's asking for more, but you know, like, you know, if one day a week or one day a month you can go to an event, right? You don't know what kind of dividends that hour is gonna pay next week, next month, 4 years from now when you get to see that student graduate, you know? So to see them as people, right? Like, go to their things, see them as people outside of the class.
We are nearing the end of time. I mean, the time for this, not like time in general. My apologies, that got really dark all of a sudden, and it was a little melodramatic. I apologize, this is not the rapture. I meant we're nearing the end of our Q&A session, so if you had a last-minute question on live stream, make sure you get it to us. If you've got a question in the room, make sure you think about it, is what I was trying to say before I terrified everyone. So I'm going to ask just a reference question from each of you. Given the topic of conversation, if you could suggest one book, documentary, podcast, author, something to take this a step further, what would be your one resource that you would recommend that we go out and check for?
All right, while the thinking's happening, I would recommend the documentary series America to Me, which should be available online somewhere. But it's a 10-episode documentary series that goes into a Chicago school and spends a lot of time interviewing students, interviewing teachers, and because they stayed so long, you really get to see, you get to see a whole year, and you get to see a lot of perspectives and spend a lot of time with individuals that, you know, takes work and takes relationship, and it's clear that the documentarians spent a lot of time, and it thinks about race in education and race in particularly schools that are like mixed, much like a lot of our schools in CCSD are, right? And how students experience that and how they experience teachers. So I'd highly recommend it. It's also just like really watchable.
Can you say the title one more time?
Was America to Me. There we are, it's on Hulu. Also, there's so many things. Never mind. There's so many books to read, but that's a good documentary series.
I'm gonna just say a couple favorite things of mine. I think one of them is called Sisters. And it's about this single mom and her 3 daughters and how her daughters became athletes. And I like how the educators and the coaches in their lives are, like put a village around those girls. You know what I'm talking? It's called Sisters, right? I think it's called Sisters. Yeah, yep, Netflix. I love that.
It's a movie. It's a documentary.
Yeah, it's a documentary. And I also just love King Richard. Like, just, you know, how Mr. Williams had a vision for his daughters. And people thought because he had that heavy Southern accent and he was from down south that he was ignorant and dumb. And I think he was a brilliant man. So I think that, it can help some people, some people you can't help. I hate to say that, but it will help some people to see that just because someone speaks in a heavy black Southern accent does not mean that they're not smart, because that man was brilliant. He did a lot of wrong things. He wasn't a perfect person. Like I liked how in the documentary his wife told him about, and what about that time your son came over here that I didn't know about, whatever. But, so nobody's perfect, but he had a lot of good in him. And the lessons that he taught his daughters, and even how the education that he made sure that they got. And he made sure that his daughters were not chewed up by the sports world. I just think that's a good, there were so many things in that documentary that were in that movie that were educational. I think that's a good one to watch too.
Make sure y'all get Dr. Richardson's book. Read it. You can have it all you want to. If you have Canopy, you should be, if you are a Nevada system of higher education student, you can log in. You should be able to log in. On Canopy, it's called, where did it go? Race, the Power of an Illusion. There's 3 episodes. That's really good. If you want to know about hair, black hair, The Hair Tales is on Hulu. It's really good because it talks not just about hair, it talks about culture. This is as it relates to black girls. I can't pronounce my Nigerian sister's name, but there's a YouTube video called The Danger of a Single Story. Yeah, I don't want to mess it up. I'm married to a Nigerian, but I ain't there yet with pronouncing some of these names. There you go. Praise the Lord. That's a really, really good documentary or TED Talk to watch. I want to call it Building America. Henry Louis Gates just released a documentary on Building America. That's what I think, Building Black America, on PBS. It's really good. There's also there's 2 other people. YouTube, Dr. Tommy Mabry. He grew up very roughly, and now he's a PhD, and he does PDs for teachers who work with students that are a little rough around the edges. And there's another speaker, he has plenty of books. I don't know if CCSD gave you the book. It's Dr. Adolph Brown. He's really good too.
We have a final question, and I have 45 seconds for each of you. I'm gonna give you like a 30-second thinking time, and then 45 seconds for each of you to answer so we can move into the next piece. It is our very last question. And the question focuses on the lack of Black American culture and stories and in reading curriculum. And it asks the question of, as we're still dealing with that and finding proper representation for Black people, do you think that it's appropriate or necessary to also then be fighting for the inclusion of other demographics and LGBTQ stories in reading curriculum, or should it be like a do one, then the other type of, like, how do you balance that?
Do it all. It's called intersectionality. You have a little of everything in your classroom. So find the literature, make sure that it's approved by your district. They also have articles on Achieve 3000 and the other things that we use. Do it all. If you do it for one, you do it for all. Most of our cultures intersect anyway. So hit it.
I don't really think I have anything to add to that.
I would like for us to, one, give yourselves a round of applause in person and online. Another round of applause for our fabulous keynote speaker and our a thank you and a round of applause to our breakout session leaders and panelists. And of course, a round of applause for your fabulous MC. This is going to conclude this piece. I do want to just remind you, February 4th. Are y'all sure? And where is that Professional Development Day? All right, I like it. Reminder, you can do your red, yellow, green for your Q&A as well. The panelists will be available to ask questions. There are snacks. Are we ready? Are we good to cut? And so, I just want to verify, are we still live streaming or did we cut? We can, yeah. Bye, guys. Okay, because they don't have to sign out. Very important. Everyone in this room hears this part, except for them, they don't matter about this. If you don't sign out, we're going to assume that you ditched at some point and you're going to get the alternate assignment.